was thinking to share a little bit about Marshall Rosenberg, how he came to develop the nonviolent communication. I think not many of us know about that. I discovered it in a beautiful interview he gave. Somehow it really touched me and it got me, and even so I'm having still, of course, difficulties with applying the language of nonviolent communication, but I'm fascinated by it already. And I had a personal flashback. What got me really going, that was when I was 12 or 13 years old. I was shopping for my family, and when I came back in the house I lived in, there was a guy, and he asked for a name, family name, and then he grasped me and closed my mouth, and he wanted to push me into the cellar and I guess rape me. And in that moment I was just grasping the how you call them, banister, and so I had so much energy, adrenaline going. So, and while he was holding my mouth, I remember that I thought and said through his holding my mouth, let's talk. And I don't know, it's just an instinct. And what I learned out of it is that's naturally in us, that we want to connect, that there's something more than violence. There are other ways to, instead of applying violence. So this evening, it happened that my mother had an instinct, and from the third floor, she called for my name. And then he let go and ran away. So, and I was as fast as I could in my mother's arm. So, Marshall Rosenberg, too, he had some very painful experiences when he was young. He is grown in 34, and he was Jewish. So, and he is grown up in Ohio and then moved to Detroit, and there he experienced a lot of racism. And he himself experienced physical violence in his neighborhood and at school, so he got beaten up quite a number of times because of his Jewish background. And he first developed a very aggressive way of living and thinking too, but realized that this just brought more suffering and pain to him and his people around him. He had two main questions then that drove him to the point that he developed this new language of nonviolent communication. And that was, because I believe that the joy of compassionate giving and receiving corresponds to our natural being, I'm working since many years of my life with two questions. What exactly happens when we lose touch with our empathic nature and then act in violent, exploitative ways? And vis-a-vis, what makes it possible for some people, even under the most difficult conditions, to stay in touch with their empathic nature? So Marshall Rosenberg had this very strong interest in new forms of communication that would provide peaceful alternatives to violence. And this interest led him to the way he lived. So he founded the Center for Nonviolent Communication in 1984. He published 15 books that has been translated in more than 30 languages. One of the most best-selling books is Nonviolent Communication, a Language of Life. He got very inspired in his work by Mahatma Gandhi's Nonviolent Way of Life, and by his teacher Carl Roger, who was the founder of the interpersonal client-oriented psychotherapy. And he educated hundreds of certified nonviolent teachers who are spread throughout the world, and they themselves have founded little groups that is growing rapidly still, right just in this moment. And yeah, that's really worldwide, and also in countries that are war-torn, like Syria and Nigeria, Rwanda, Burundi, or Northern Ireland. And he's saying in this video that's called something, a vision for the future. It's a very short, nice YouTube video, 25 minutes, so if you're interested, I encourage you to watch that. he's saying we are waking up in regard that we are destroying the ecology and planet itself. We can't continue to destroy the planet. We are desperate about that. And he's saying there is a growing body of people that are getting connected right now, that or got connected, that have a different vision, and they are starting to grow. In the last 200 years, we had these wars that have made people aware to better wake up, or we are going to destroy ourselves. The violence is a powerful learning experience, he is saying. In the last couple of centuries, there are people that know there's another way, like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, or nowadays groups like Greenpeace or Amnesty International. And he and his nonviolent institute, or the educators, they are teaching people what is alive in them. That's his language. We are teaching people what is alive in us. And the best way to find out what is alive in human beings, he says, is to be conscious of what they are feeling and needing. All human beings have the same needs, he's saying. And here it comes where it really nicely connects with Buddhism. So that when people connect on that level, they don't see people as different, but they see their oneness. And here at the Abbey, we are learning nonviolent communication since 8 years or something like that. I'm only since 5 years since I'm here. And it's slowly, but we are making progress. And we have a prayer that goes like that. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders will spread the view of dependent arising and nonviolent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West flourish. So we have a kind of a commitment to practice the view of dependent arising and nonviolent communication. And it's really, I think it's pretty ingrained in our community. We are very willing to think in that pattern, although it takes a lot of effort to change our habituation. Because Marshall Rosenberg is saying that this language we have trained ourselves since 2 centuries is a violent language. We have ourselves habituated in that very deeply. So I would like to continue what he is saying. So whatever needs the other person has, we all have. The difference comes in how we have been educated to meet our needs. I think everybody can understand the different ways. That's where the problems come in, he says. This comes in how we have been trained to think. Like Martin Luther King himself, he learned through 21 years in different schools and colleges, and he said that he was never asked for his feelings and needs during that time. The schools he went to perpetuated that there are superiors, in this case the professors, who know what the right answers are, and if you know what the right answers are as they define them, the professors agree upon that, you get rewarded, and if you don't, you get some bad things happen to you. So he himself, it took him quite a while to figure out what this kind of consciousness of life is, words that describe what is alive in myself and other people. And he tried it in different ways. He started some attempts even to work with the UN, United Nations, but he says it's been far from functioning, mainly because the countries have not been willing to give the centralized organization the power that they would need to create a world in which everyone's needs are getting met. So, and he says, we have the resources to get everyone's needs met. It's only our thinking that keeps the violence, the starvation going. And he is saying something very powerful, what we all know in Buddhism is very pregnant thinking. We can't enjoy life until we see that everyone's needs are getting met. I think that's very worthwhile to contemplate about that. We can't enjoy life until we see that everyone's needs are getting met. What we need is a radical change in our consciousness so that people see that good life is not people who think they are good killing of the bad people. We need to have a different consciousness based on compassionate giving. People need to be conscious what human beings enjoy. Then anything else is willingly contributing to another's well-being. And then he's speaking about a second consciousness, and that is our oneness. And here I will speak about how we apply that in Buddhism. He's saying we never get our needs met in another's expense. So we have to be aware that the well-being of everybody in the planet is our own well-being. Here, Marshall Rosenberg thinks that we need to start with families and schools, but in Buddhism we think we need to start within ourselves before going out. And just like Venerable Semke mentioned this morning, we had this Medicine Buddha retreat where Venerable Shutren shared about Chapter 8 and the specifics about what is self-cherishing or self-centeredness and how can we overcome that through exchanging self and others. We learned about how to develop a mind that cherishes others, that sees others in as same important precious than we see ourselves. This is called exchanging self and others, and we reflect first that we are all equal in the sense that we don't want to suffer, that we want to have happiness, attain happiness. As this is so, we should protect ourselves as well as we protect then others. We all desire happiness. Understanding this, we reflect upon the disadvantages of self-centeredness. For example, we will have interpersonal conflicts, we will have more disharmony, and it can even lead to wars. But mainly it prevents us from spiritual progress, and it destroys us in the future. So Marshall Rosenberg is saying further, when we see each other's needs, we see our oneness. We get more joy contributing to others' well-being than trying to dominate or to compete with each other. We say in Buddhism, as oneself has the right to achieve happiness and eliminate suffering, so do others. As we wish to be compassionate and loving to oneself, as we support ourselves and help ourselves, so does every sentient being wishes the compassion and love and support I grant myself. We want to be helped and not to be harmed, so do others. And so Marshall Rosenberg has a dream. He died in 2015. And this dream is already kind of flourishing, and we hope it will become really big and true for everyone. A network's mission of a critical mass of people that will be re-educated so that everyone's needs will be compassionately fulfilled on the planet, all needs for food and for safety, he says. I believe this is reachable, that we can create a planet where everyone's needs are being met compassionately.